Welcome to Rainbows Are Circles, a podcast exploring human potential and everyday wonder. What possibilities open up for us when we explore life with optimism, curiosity, and an open mind? Join me, Julie Malari, as we wake up to wonder and speak with inspirational guests on the topics of personal development, alternative health, and even magical, mystical, yet often misunderstood practices. Are you ready? Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Rainbows Are Circles. I am so delighted that you're here today. We have a beautiful and special guest, Anna Dorian, on the show today. She has been on the show a couple times before. You might remember her. Anna has been teaching healing arts since 2004. And she has recently begun a program about working with goddess energy and how working with a goddess can help us and serve us during these really transitional and rapidly changing times that we're currently in. So Anna, welcome and thank you for being here.
Julie, thank you 1,001 times for holding this space and creating this possibility. I wish to lay gratitudes at your feet, and I also wish to welcome everyone who is listening. And my strong and fervent prayer is that you receive whatever you need today in listening. And of course, because we are speaking today about the divine feminine, I want to extend special invitation to the goddess in her many faces to be here and help us and hold us and support us and teach us as we move into this new evolutionary phase of our human times here planetside. So thanks for having me and hello.
So Anna, let's start with what is a goddess? And is a goddess the same as a goddess?
It's a beautiful question. And when I think about the goddess, the thing that immediately arrives and lands for me is that a goddess is like a feminine projection or personification of the divine. And I was chatting with the goddess this morning before this podcast, and I went to her temple, and there were so many goddesses there, and they were laughing and talking with each other. It was very convivial and celebratory today in the temple. And I said, you know, what is needed today for this podcast? What would you like to be spoken, speaking to the great divine her? And she emphasized that. She said, yeah, you've already received that correctly. You know, we are different personifications of divinity. And she said, humans are able to understand this because they already have a 3D teaching on your planet about what a goddess is. And so you might see some similarities between the different teachings and vibrational ways of beings that the different animal family that you live with on the planet bring, in the same way that goddesses bring different energies. And by that, I mean, when we think about a frog, a really cheerful little tree frog, we're like, oh yeah, okay, I've got a sense of that essence. That's cool. And then we think maybe about a big, beautiful buffalo, and we're like, oh, that's a real different frequency there. There's some really different energy. And then maybe we think about playful otters swimming through the water and the rivers and juggling rocks and bowling. And these are three very distinct and different medicines. And so what the goddess was offering this morning as I communed with her was that goddesses are similar in a way. So when we're moving through a phase and we're learning about human suffering, or when we're learning about gratitude, or about forgiveness, or about wrathful compassion, or about generosity, or about metamorphosis, there is an aspect of the feminine divine who will meet us in each of those different frequencies. And when we speak about the goddess, it's like we are receiving the frequency that we most need by interacting with one of her different faces. And she had an addendum to that when I was chatting with her this morning in preparation for this podcast. And what she offered was, she said, sometimes goddesses exist because there is already an extant archetype. She said, sometimes the goddesses exist because there is need and we are called forth into existence. And she said, sometimes the goddesses exist because of belief, because there is longevity of cherishment and reverence and respect. And there was this sort of playful, but also like, and remember, kind of a feel when she also offered, you can call on any goddess at any time, But please be mindful to not use us or our vibrations, and instead really connect with us and like open your heart to us with full curiosity and generosity and respect, like you would with the beloved. And in that way, there's clean, clear capacity for us to connect and we can show up for you. And I also want to speak to your question about the difference in pronunciation between goddess and goddess. And I think until I had a particular awakening in New Mexico, which I'm happy to speak about, I think up until that point, I always had said goddess and it felt really great. And after that awakening experience, this phrase goddess and that pronunciation began coming through. It is the thing that I received and that feels right. And it feels like there's an extra cherishment or reverence or respect with that pronunciation and the invocation of that divine feminine energy.
I would say too that goddess just sounds a little bit fancier and more special and like divine in a way.
I feel like with our words and with our intention, we can create these extra spaces of possibility for magic, even in just a slight pronunciation shift. And so if that is occurring for you, even as we're chatting about this, that's awesome, because it feels like to me the goddesses love more than anything to be cherished and delighted in, and for us to really begin to connect in authentic ways. So if we can sprinkle some magic dust on that, then yes, please, let's bring all of the specialness and love and cherishment and reverence and delight that we possibly can.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the smallest shifts in the way that we do something or say something, when we do it with the intention of it meaning something, like that is literally what gives things meaning. Like if we have an altar and we go to our altar in the morning and we light a candle, it could just be lighting a candle, or it could be, it could symbolize something. It could symbolize a new day, a new beginning, a new intention that we're setting. I love that idea of something so small could make it so much more meaningful.
I agree. And I'm thinking about when we speak about meaning and profundity and purpose in Circle, there's an example that I use and I say, okay, let's say I have this beautiful piece of jewelry that I wish to give to you. And I say, I tootle over to you and I say, hey, Julie, here's this necklace. Okay, well, you've received a gift and that's lovely, and hopefully the necklace is beautiful. But if I come to you and I ask for you to please open your hands and tell you that something has been prepared for you with reverence and with joy and with deep heart dedication, that a special talisman is about to be bestowed upon you that is steeped in mysticism and power and magic, and then I place that necklace in your hands, you're going to have two very different experiences, right, of this very same object. So I love your beginning here with goddess and goddess, and how do we raise the vibration and the frequency of cherishment and what is special? Really beautiful. Thanks, Julie.
So what are some examples of a goddess?
So there are so many examples, like I feel almost an infinite number of examples of who the goddesses are. And I think in our Western culture, we sometimes are met pretty frequently and in a sort of almost mainstream way with the ancient Greek and Roman goddesses. And I think that maybe in our culture has flavored some of the ways that we even interact with goddess energy. And it sometimes for some folks can feel like, oh, it's this musty old energy from ancient Rome, or, like, yeah, the goddess was revered in ancient Rome, but she's revered today too. And so a few goddesses who I love and work with, one is beautiful Mother Sekhmet from the Egyptian tradition, and she's interesting. I'm going to hit the pause button on that narrative for a minute, because I think that it's one thing to encounter a goddess and receive somebody else's teaching and ideas about her, and then it is entirely another to connect with her directly and have a direct experience of what is your teaching, what is your medicine, what is your way of being. It would maybe be like reading about someone's experience with a squirrel on a walk out in the woods and then having an experience yourself. It's a very different kind of a piece. So when I speak about Sekhmet, I want to acknowledge there's a lot of different interpretation about her when we look at the interwebs or read books or however we are receiving our information. And for me, she's a dual goddess. And there is this very ferocious and wrathful aspect of her. Her origin story is very beautiful, her legend. But there also is a strong healing aspect where she can be turned to in times of peace for healing and succor and sweetness. So she's a main who I want to start with and welcome to beloved Mother Sekhmet Sa Sekim Sahu from the Egyptian pantheon. And we might extend to the goddess Lakshmi from India and say, hello, prosperity and abundance and joy and sweetness and what is delightful and fine. Or we could turn to beloved Mother Kuan Yin from China when we need to receive the medicine of compassion without limit. But we also can bring really contemporary examples in. And I was circling with a sister the other day, and we were chatting about the goddess and about this program. And I said, well, beloved, who is the goddess that you would like to work with today? And I'm expecting, some deity, right? And so, okay. And she says, the goddess I would like to bring in today is Rosa Parks. I was like, all right. Yeah, that's beautiful. Let's sit with Rosa Parks. Let's sit with that frequency and with that teaching and her brilliance and bravery and beauty and contribution. And it was such a wonderful conversation because I think it helps us expand our concept of the goddess away from, some big, high, mighty, divine creature that we must meet on bent knee. I would offer instead we can meet in friendship and cherishment and delight and be friends and besties and sisters with each other. But also a goddess can be an embodied personification here on the planet as a human, someone whose good works we look up to and admire, a historic figure, or even a person in our own lives. And this is one of the big interesting things, I think, when we say, what are some examples of the goddess? It's like, it's everywhere. It's in myth and folklore and legend. It's in entertainment and podcasts and media. It's in books and stories. And it's in people that we know, in living, beautiful examples of the feminine divine herself. So she's got a million forms. And part of the delight of this work is discovering what her mysteries are and how we can best connect with her in our own evolution and growth in service to the light.
What are some of the benefits of working with the goddess?
It's my perception here in 2021, after a time of great global tumult and change, that we are really in evolutionary times. And we see this, I think, on any of the possible continuums, whether that's the personal or the political or the social or the global or the environmental. We are seeing change a go-go. It is metamorphosis in action. And what we have been doing, I offer, is maybe not so functional and perhaps would like to be revisited and released and then recreated. And so while some of these older ways that have been extant, perhaps not totally respectful to the planet or to all of the different kinds of persons, human and non-human persons here, as that older way falls apart and falls off, blessings to it, I feel like the newer thing that is emergent that so many light workers and spiritual seekers and way showers have been speaking about for so many millennia is this is a return to the divine feminine, this time where we are invited to jettison the vibrations of unloving and unkindness and unmaking and instead celebrate what is loving and kind and fluid and generous and creative and feminine. So I think what I'm trying to say is the trajectory that I see our species and our planet moving towards is that of the divine feminine. And that makes this work doubly more important and doubly more interesting and also doubly more aligned with what is actually emergent and coming through.
That makes a lot of sense because I was speaking with an astrologer and she was talking about how a lot of our recent history has been like imbalanced because we have such strong masculine energy sort of more prevalent in our world. And so not that there is anything like wrong with masculine energy, but when it gets out of balance, things feel like more rigid and we are more goal focused and instead of focusing on the process. And so kind of whatever we need to do to like make something happen, we'll do it, even if it's going to be harmful to other people or things along the way, which is probably why we haven't been taking very good care of our planet and oftentimes not our people. And it feels just right. And it feels needed that we need to bring in more balance of like feminine energy right now, where we are thinking more holistically about what is the best way to go about doing this? Maybe having like a set goal and just going at it and not stopping isn't the best way. Maybe we need to kind of be a little bit more fluid and creative in our approach and like bring in more of that compassion and kindness and softness to the process. So Anna, what was your inspiration for creating this goddess program?
Oh, it's story time. I'm so glad you asked. We're going to jump around in the timeline for half a minute, but we'll weave it all together. It's a beautiful web. When I was living in New Mexico, I had a really spontaneous awakening experience with the goddess. I don't know of a better way to describe it. And it sparked this intense hunger, absolute desire, insatiable need in me to learn everything that I could about the goddess. And so I spent days and days and weeks and months just glutting myself on all of her, well, not all, but many of her different faces and vibrations and ways of being. And I learned about goddess worship in long, long ago times and more recent and some of the in-betweens. And it was a really extraordinary time, and I did a lot of art with her in honor of her. I walked labyrinths in her honor. I did a lot of sacred bathing, a lot of singing, created a lot of physical offerings and representations to just delight in and more or less dunk myself into her medicines and her teachings. And I feel like that was a big vibrational seed that got planted for me. And then if we fast forward to a few years back, linear time, who can say 4 or 5 years-ish, I was at a time in my life where I was feeling really burdened and really burned out. And my narrative was that there was too much, et cetera, et cetera. And I had a really kind friend who said, well, have you ever thought about taking some personal retreat? And I said, well, not so much. I have my dedicated time off, but I haven't really explored that vein. And what do you have to say about personal retreat here? And this friend of mine, hi Jeff, if you're listening, I love you so much. He was a hospice chaplain for a long time and is now a teacher of healing arts and a really skilled, wise elder. And so he kindly led my hand, or held my hand as I began exploring what personal retreat could look like. Why do we want to engage in that? What is the structure? What do we hope to get out of it? What aspects of ourselves do we bring? And so what evolved was I decided I would take a 13-month practice that I created myself of devotion with the goddess. And that every month I would set 3 days aside, and was privileged at that time in my life to be running my own show and was able to say, I'll take these 3 days off. And so I would take 3 days every single month. And in those 3 days, I would leave my home and, go camping on the land or stay in a yurt or an Airbnb or whatever felt right in the moment. And in those 3 days, it was this really deep devotion with the goddess. And my prayer was, please teach me, show me what I need to know. Let me see your faces, welcome me into the mystery. And those were 13 really extraordinary months. And I've got lots of stories about what happened in those. But that was one of the ways that I met beloved Mother Sekhmet as she began appearing to me. And that has bloomed into what I think is a lifelong passion. I give such reverence to her. And it began bringing to life for me more the concept in a lived experience kind of a way of how alive and vital and present to us the feminine divine is in her many faces. Fast forward another couple years as we have moved, blessings, to the 2020 of it all, as I like to say, moving into the 2021. And it's like, yeah, our world has changed. For so many reasons, our world has changed. And as we've spoken to a little bit earlier, I think one of those big emergent changes is a return to the divine feminine. And as I am listening for what my good works are in the world, whether we're working with healing energies or with helping spirits, or whether we're together in circle or we're doing ceremony or taking retreat together, or whatever it is that we're up to, I am listening for what the evolution of my work is. And as our big time of upheaval that we all signed up for in one way of knowing occurred, it felt like, wow, these seeds that were planted so long ago in the deserts of New Mexico and have been gently and slowly blooming with reverence and respect and dedication since, have all been preparatory to the goddess asking to be shared with us here at this time in her many faces and her many forms. So that's where this circle came from. And it has been the deepest delight to listen to what wants to come through. And work with the archetypal energies. And if we have time, I would love to talk a little bit more about the circle and how it's different from others that I have seen, especially in its embrace of many, many, many different aspects of the divine feminine instead of perhaps more archetypal ones, which is also beautiful. So that was the seed, and it's blossoming and it's blooming and its fruits are really lovely. And I just invite everyone to come play and find out what the beginning or the continuation of their journey with the goddess is.
Yes, well, I'd actually love to hear about what the program looks like and what people can expect in joining the program.
Well, settle in, grab your snuggie blanket and your cup of tea. I could talk about this all day. Don't worry, I won't. So the idea is we spend 9 months in circle together. And in those 9 months, there are 3 segments or chapters that we move through. And those are archetypal. They're larger holding spaces and ideas that we then organize our own personal experience around. And by that, I mean, if you were to do this in a very sequential, linear kind of a way, you might start in your 9 months to do 3 months with maiden, 3 months with mother, 3 months with crone. But some folks are going to enter the circle at a different point in the wheel, which is always turning. So someone might enter at crone and then move into maiden and then move into mother for their 9-month experience, or start at mother, move into crone, and then move into maiden. It doesn't matter where you enter the circle because it is cyclical, just like the divine feminine is. And there are many faces and aspects that we can move through, just like how we do in our human lives. So regardless of where you enter the circle, there are invitations, that are offered about questing for the goddess that is speaking to you. And so there we explore what are the emergent themes in your life, what are your dreams, where are your struggles, and then there are some invitations about how we can quest for a face of the goddess that is holding a key to the medicine that we're seeking. Once we've found her and she's revealed her faces to us, and by the way, we're seeing some amazing, amazing goddesses show up in circle, like holy wow, Batman. So we're seeing goddesses from the Byzantine and from Syria and from ancient Celtic times, and it's amazing seeing who women are bringing. Anywho, once you have found your goddess and you're ready to go, there is also invitation before you begin the circle to perform a ceremony of activation. And this is... a lot of this circle is DIY. So seeds are planted. We give you a lot of invitation and a lot of structure for you to make your own. But you are then invited to create the ceremony and go and get out on the land and create your ceremony of activation and begin building that strong relationship with the goddess yourself. Because I offer, it's nice to be shepherded into things, but this is about direct revelation. This is about you being in communion with her and learning what she wishes to teach you. So that all happens before you even enter the circle. And then when we get there, it's so much fun. We do a lot of circling together based on the larger archetypal themes that we're exploring, what's going on in our lives in the context of maiden or mother or crone or one of their aspects. We each tend a living altar, and that's been super cool because I have had a billion altars over the years. I'm an altar hound. I love them. Yay. But this is different, and the folks in circle are reporting the same thing. So we each have a simple, elaborate, up to you altar that we've created, which is not a space of worship as much as a place of honoring in our spaces. And what all of us are experiencing and reporting is that these are different than other altars that we've known. And part of that is that one of the aspects of the circle is that we each can offer prayers that are held by the larger circle and all of the different goddesses. Think BYOG, bring your own goddess. So there's lots of them. And so those prayers for self or for folks who have given permission, if I offer that up to 20 folks in circle, are then amplified and brought to the attention and awareness of 20 different aspects of the female divine. And we are loving tending these altars. And I will not go into too much detail because the circles are also confidential, but I will say that we're seeing some really extraordinary quote unquote result. Sounds a little, product oriented, but we're seeing some really beautiful support from the divine that are coming from these prayer bowls. And when we're in circle, we do a lot of ceremonies. So we speak with the goddess really frequently, whether that's through meditation or through listening to drumming or theta music. And We do. We just did a really beautiful crafternoon in Maiden Cycle. I love a crafternoon. And so here we created goddess dolls. And the intention there was appropriately threefold. So one was, of course, to connect with the aspect of the goddess that you feel called to in maiden archetype. Another was to bring some healing to the parts of us that were maybe told that we can't create, or we're not artisans, or what we create isn't worthy enough. Someone else's is better. You can't do that, blah, 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 blah. The control, that wants us to think that nonsense. And so we got to bring some healing to our own creativity. And then the third beauty in the goddess dolls was we got to make an object of power that is talismanic, that we then can use in our good works, we can use in our healings, we can gift to people, and we are imbuing our living energy into this connection that we're building, this relationship we're building with the feminine divine, just like you or I would build a relationship and tend over the years. And so that's been really sweet and beautiful. And one of the things that we are loving most is the reports that we're hearing from the women, and it's women so far, and that may change over time. But one of the things that we're hearing that we love the most is how the goddess are actually showing up for us. Confidential space, sorry, can't go into it a lot, but it's been pretty extraordinary to see the life teachings, the miracles, the happenings that are thematic with each goddess and her teachings for the folks in circle. So there's a lot of DIY component. We get out on the land, we do ceremony, we make things, we circle with each other, we invite the goddess into our lives. And one of the things that seems to be happening is we are activating priestess aspects within. And when I say priestess, I don't mean, I'm sitting in my sacred robe in my holy temple, lighting incense and chanting all day, although that's lovely and might happen too. What I mean by priestess is every one of our actions becomes a living prayer in cherishment with those that we walk with in the divine.
Wow. So it sounds like you do things in person as well when you go out on the land, or are people doing that on their own and then you do your circles like on Zoom?
Great question. So we've got folks in this moment from all over the U.S. In Circle, and this was begun in Pandemic Landia, blessings. And so, of course, everything is on Zoom to own safety. So when we circle together, we're online, and the circles are really intentionally short to hold the nervous system in balance and equilibrium. So we circle for about 3 hours, but we make sure to take a break on the hour so that we can get off screen and move and stretch and wiggle, and we keep things lively and moving along. And then invitation to get out on the land and do our ceremonial work, whether we're walking a labyrinth or taking a pilgrimage, et cetera, is we go and we do that in each of our different spaces. And as I'm speaking, what helpers are showing me is this beautiful web of light. And it's like, okay, so here's the beloved in Washington doing this ceremony out on the land. And here's the beloved in California. And here's the beloved in Minnesota. And here's the beloved in New Mexico. And so the work is rippling by virtue of us being able to meet distantly in our times.
Wow, that sounds so beautiful. Like it sounds like such a joyful and healing circle in which you're also creating like a lot of bonding and like sisterhood together and community.
Well, that's kind of my tickle in creation. And, I mentioned earlier that I have been listening in our evolutionary times for how my work also wants to evolve. And, I've tried on a lot of different forms over the years. I was just out walking in the woods thinking about this morning. It was like, okay, so there was working overtly with healing energies, and then there was working overtly with helping spirits, and maybe working overtly with divination. And that's lovely. All of those forms are great. But the essence, I think, of what I do and my mission here planetside is to help the remembrance of kindness and goodness for two-leggeds in the web of life. So in service to that, yes, community, yes, sisterhood, yes, vulnerability, yes, compassion, yes, generosity, because I think it's in those circling spaces that we are able to heal some of our wounds that we might be carrying about being othered or being excluded or left out or hurt or abandoned or betrayed or lesser than, or, any of the human wounds we can carry. And we come back into this remembrance of, oh, wow, I'm with my human family. The divine loves me without limit or condition. I am able to do my own work in a reverential way with some guidance and some invitation, but I can do it in support. And I offer to you that when we get to engage in these circles where there's belongingness and acceptance and play and goofiness and fun and intensity and power and complexity, the healing that each of us receives is also healing that ripples into the collective. So, yes to community, yes to sisterhood, yes to belonging, yes to the raising of the frequency and vibration of light here, planet side.
Got chills. When I did your 16-month program a while back, one of the greatest benefits for me, I mean, everything we did was really helpful, and there all the tools that we learned, but the sisterhood and the community and just coming together consistently in circle and witnessing each other and hearing each other and supporting each other and loving each other and just kind of learning and growing on our journey together is just it's such a beautiful experience. And it really is something that I think we as human beings really crave, that this pandemic is giving people the opportunity to do this more. Like, how many beautiful circles and programs and Zoom calls have been born out of this time of quarantining. And I think that, your program just seems like it's all of that, but then it's more, because it also engages working with that goddess energy and inviting that way of being into your daily life.
I really agree. And I'm so delighted to hear that your remembrance of a 16-month training is the sisterhood and the belonging. And I think this circles back to that the goddess can wear so many different faces, right? From ancient times, from current times, from in between. But each of them are a teaching and a beauty and brilliance in our lives. And I feel like the people who show up in Circle are like that also. So every participant in Circle is a teacher. And when we do our deep dives or our Circle shares, and we don't comment on each other's shares, we don't advise, we don't counsel, we don't give feedback or reflection. There's time and space for that in other circles. But this is a circle of just witnessing. It's like, hey, I love you. I see you. I hear you. I'm with you. That's it. That's enough. And so as each person is offering whatever is up for them, as per the prompt of a share or whatever's really up for their sacred heart, we teach each other. And when I learn about, this person moving through this obstacle and this person having this triumph and this person trying to reconcile this sorrow, I am watching the reveal of beautiful life teachings that are, for the collective and for the individual, and they're archetypal and they're personal and they're tender and they're fun and they're juicy and they're moving. And I feel like everyone in a circle gets to be a teacher, just like every face of the feminine divine gets to be. And that makes limitless possibility in this amazing, interconnected, belonging kind of a way.
Yeah. If any of this is resonating with you, if you are craving or desiring meaningful connection and a safe place for you to be yourself and to share and to be vulnerable and to also support each other just by your presence and just by listening and sending love to the people in the group. If you're looking for ways to work with a goddess and integrate the magic of the goddess into your daily life, this seems like such a beautiful opportunity to do that. What would you say has shifted or changed in your life as a result of working with a goddess?
I see her everywhere. Everywhere. It is not a concept about, the feminine divine and, all of these beautiful personifications of divinity with different flavors and frequencies and purposes and teachings. And it has moved completely out of the thinking realm and the esoteric realm into the lived concrete realm. So by that, I mean, when I am making my beautiful breakfast in the morning, I feel her. She's with me. And when I'm out walking in the woods or staring at the moon, I feel her presence. And it might be a particular face that I'm aware of or, persona, but I feel like she is walking with me in all of my living moments. And so whether I'm doing something seemingly really mundane, like making the bed or checking an email or, any of our numerous daily tasks, or something that I have, as we started with, really imbued with meaning and purpose and power, I feel her presence in every waking second. And what that translates for to me is I feel like my very best friend and beloved is with me and has my back and is holding my hand and is showing me the way all the time. It is exquisite. I wish that I had better words to talk about what that feels like, but it's amazing, and it has brought a new way of integrating spirit and my human experience that honestly, after 17 years at the time of this recording, I had not imagined possible. So it feels like coming home in a lot of ways. And of course, the circle is going to activate different aspects for different folks, and we'll each receive exactly what we need. That's one of the strong prayers in the circle. But for me, it's been a homecoming and a remembrance of my belongingness and my love of the divine feminine and her love of me.
Wow. It's like you have a loving, supportive sister next to you all the time, and that's got your back. That's what a cool way to live.
Yeah, right. And I think I really, if anyone hears anything from this, and of course we'll receive whatever we need, blessings and thanks. It would be this. I think there really is an old perception that the goddess is some musty, energy out of antiquity that is bigger than us and, must be approached with fear or reverence. And it's like, yeah, cool. That's one old way of being and knowing, but a more perhaps alive and thriving and emergent and contemporary and evolutionary way of knowing is the goddess is here. She's vital and thriving and alive and just waiting for folks to say hello and open their hearts to her. And the thing that I've been hearing for the last few minutes as we're speaking, and Julie, it's just purest delight to be with you and also with our beautiful ones listening in future timeline. If you're listening, if you're here, if you're receiving these words and these vibrations, seeds are being planted and her hand has led you here. So I'm feeling her blessing and her grace. And should it feel good to receive it, I feel like her blessings are offered to each person here, listening past, present, and future. May it be so, and may you receive what you need today with greatest love and deepest respect.
Thank you, Anna. One thing I wanted to mention about my own experience working with a goddess is I started working with a goddess, Ame no Uzume, who is a goddess of joy and fun and light and not taking things so seriously. And since I started working with her and really working with those concepts, I feel like I've started to embody those things more in my own life. I don't take myself too seriously anymore. I used to really try to make everything perfect with this podcast. And now I let it flow a little bit more. I let my personality come out a little bit more because I just it feels so good to just be a little bit more free and to be a little bit more forgiving with ourselves and to just allow ourselves to shine and just be who we are instead of trying to shape ourselves into what we think is expected of us. And so, just wanted to say that because that's how working with one of the goddesses has shifted my life. It's allowed me to tap into more joy, to have more fun, to play more, and to just allow myself to be more creative and expressive. Before we wrap up, let's jump into our quick lightning round because I'm really curious about your answers to these questions. And then we can tell folks how they can learn more and potentially, if they're feeling called to, join the Goddess Circle.
Let's do it. Let's quick fire. I can't wait.
Okay, so 2020 was a doozy, but lots of good came out of it. What was a blessing for you that happened in 2020?
Yes, it was a doozy for each of us in our own way. Blessings. Lots and lots and lots of teachings and shift was possible, I think, for each of us in that transformational year. And the one shining star that I think is brightest in my constellation of memory when I look back on that is that I learned truly in a new way what it is to appreciate the beloved. And so whether it was maintaining friendships with the beloved via Zoom or via phone, that was pretty much it for me on my end. It was like I appreciated in a new way that there is actual mana and power and love in friendship and connection and longevity of those things. And I'd known that before. It's not like friends weren't deeply cherished and revered by me, but in our time of social distancing and not being able to hug or look into each other's eyes or walk together holding hands, I found this new appreciation for how deeply sacred and special it is to be in relationship with the beloved.
When you are feeling off center, what brings you back to a space of groundedness and centeredness?
Well, I have a large tool basket here. And so it sort of depends on the mood and what has me feeling out of my center. If I'm feeling a little triggered or destabilized or off my equilibrium, the first thing that comes is singing. I love to sing. And I don't care if I sound good or, it's like whatever. I just love to sing. It's joyful for me. And I find that it is a practice of single-minded focus that helps me come back into my body and my breath and the present. There's lots of others, but I think that is a really great go-to. I might also mention taking long baths with Epsom salt and a really good book and a candle, but right. We'll go with singing, because joyful, because creative, because yes.
Oh, I like that one. Do you believe in magic? And if so, what is magic to you?
Great question. Of course I believe in magic. I live magic. Of course. I feel like magic is what helps us remember joy and love and sweetness and the incredible possibility that this realm holds for us. So whenever the key fits into the lock and turns and opens the door into what feels truly delightful and divine and sweet and kind, that's magic. When we smile so much that our faces hurt and all is aligned in the world and we see the mystery working on our behalf, when there's kindness and generosity and goodness, that's magic.
If you could be any animal, what would you be and why? I bet it's an otter.
Because, Julie, you've met me. So I'm laughing and I'm looking at this very large otter tattoo on my forearm. And yes, it would indeed be the otter. And I will very quickly say, long time ago, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, I started having these wild dreams of river otters that were as vivid as this waking moment is. And that began this extraordinary journey with the river otter, who I just love with every single particle of my being. And don't start me on otters because this is not a 1-minute quickfire. But I love otters because of their play and their curiosity and their full presence to the beauty of life. Side note, I have learned since that one of my ancestral lines has a real deep affinity with the otter, who they call the sleek ones.
And they hold hands while they're swimming on their backs, and it's the cutest thing.
It is literally the cutest thing. And really, truly, it's dangerous to start me on the otters because I'm like, and how many weeks do you have? Let's go. Let's talk about the 13 species of otter. Woohoo! But they feel like joy personified to me. And that is such an exquisite vibration to be with and hold and appreciate. So yeah, thanks for bringing in some extra otter medicine there and opening that door.
Oh man. Yeah. If anybody wants to watch something adorable, go and just look up a video of otters holding hands, but you're probably going to go down a rabbit hole. So make sure you have a little bit of time. Anna, how can people learn more about you and the program and potentially sign up if they're interested?
Oh, thanks for asking. So please come and visit us in our online house that is cleverly disguised as a website. Oh, let's start that over. Take 2. Yep. And take 2. Thank
I thought
you.
that was funny.
Oh, we'll try again. So folks are absolutely invited to come and meet us in our online hub of light that we have cleverly disguised as a website. Oh, yeah. And that's vibrantreiki.com. And our new set of offerings in our changing times is called The Wild Loving Divine. And The Goddess in Me, the program that we've been talking about all this time, thanks, Julie, is one embodiment of the Wild Loving Divine presented in our changing times so that we can meet from any place on the planet with all of our sweet beloveds. I am not by choice on social media. I feel like I want to be a little old school and move back to word of mouth and that folks find us in magical ways. So follow the Raven or listen to what your beautiful beloved has offered or do a random Google about river otter and you will probably fall right into our laps. And if you want to have a meet and greet, always you can shoot me an email. I'm very, very, very respondable to email, but we actually do a goddess meet and greet before the beginning of each of the 3-month cycles. So depending on where folks are called to enter the circle, whether it's the beginning of Maiden, the beginning of Mother, the beginning of Crone, the experience is 9 months. You can enter whenever you want. You're welcome to come to one of the meet and greets. And the time of this recording, we're just setting one up with my beautiful sister teacher, Reese, in Seattle. And so it'll just be a quick hour together. We'll have a direct experience with the goddess. We'll go visit her temple. We'll circle together, learn a little bit about the program. And, when I'm shopping around for the next program, I like to be able to meet the teacher and ask some questions and just get a sense of them. So that's what the meet and greet is about, is please come say hi, have a cup of tea, go hang out at the temple, and we'll see what kind of magics lay in store for us.
Yes. Yes, definitely check out Anna's website. It is gorgeous. It's such a beautifully done website. It's vibrantreiki.com. And you can also sign up for her newsletter and learn more about the program there. And then all of Anna's information will be on my website at rainbowsarecircles.com, as well as the show notes. So check that out as well. And Anna, before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to say either about the goddess or anything at all in the whole world?
Wow. I just the cosmic microphone. That was so cool. Anything else about the whole world? Wow. I think this. I'm just going to channel and listen and allow what wishes to come through fall out of my face. So we'll learn together. I feel like my small part of the larger quilt that is unfolding here planetside is about being and embodying love and helping us remember our kindness and our goodness and our essential natures. And there's a lot of ways that can look. The form is unimportant, but if you are listening to this magical creature, hearing my voice in this moment, if you've made it this far on the podcast, congratulations, bravo and brava. I love you. I love you because you're alive, and I love you because you're part of the living web of life, and I love you because you matter and you are essential and you are beautiful. So I will hold that light of remembrance for you until we get to meet and beyond. Many blessings and thanks.
You made me all teary. Thank you so much, Anna. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Julie. It is beyond a pleasure, and I'm tickled and delighted, and I'm sitting in front of one of many goddess altars in the house, and I have been working in this last week since the beautiful full moon with sweet and beloved Lakshmi. And so she's sitting here with some of her sacred elephants, and there's this lovely offering of honey that a friend gave to me. And so as I'm beholding her, she's this image of her is with her 4 arms, and she's holding chrysanthemums. She's standing on the lotus of enlightenment, and elephants are showering divine water and blessings on her. And from one of her hands, that is not in a mudra that teaches us how to transform pain into medicine, in the other hand, she is sprinkling these beautiful golden coins, and there's this feeling of fecundity and abundance and prosperity. So, Julie, I am wishing that for you. I am wishing that for rainbows or circles. I am wishing that for every single creature who has been guided and led here. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna.
Bam, ba bam, bam, ba bam, bam. Bam, ba bam, bam, ba bam, bam. Wow, 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 wow. Rainbows are circles.